When do you think we'll start seeing presidents with beards again? I feel so unrepresented. Welcome to Rumble Book Club. I'm your host, Michael Hernandez, and this is the show where just a normal guy like me can talk about cool books he's read, old and new, good and bad. So if you like the show, you like the books that I talk about, then subscribe right down below. Hit that little bell to let you know when the next video comes out, and share these videos with your friends, or if you're a loser and you don't have any friends like me, then share them with your dog or something. I don't know. I'm kidding. I do have friends. I promise. Well, partners, today we're going to take a look at a really cool book that I just finished reading yesterday, which I'm really glad for because now I get to share it with you. Today we're going to take a look at Ride the Devil's Herd by John Boessenecker. Boessenecker is a renowned Western historian. He's received multiple accolades for his books. This is one of many novels, or not novels, sorry. This is one of many biographies that he's written, one of which we've actually reviewed on the show called Texas Ranger, The Life of Frank Hamer. In this book, you learn all about the life, times, and the legend that was built around Wyatt Earp, who is one of the most well-known lawmen in American history. The aesthetics are really interesting because you have this photo taken of Wyatt Earp. It's actually from a group photo that you'll see later on, and they read it out, which kind of gives this very sinister appeal, and you can't tell whether the sinister nature is shining a light on Wyatt Earp himself or the daunting task of taking down the Cowboys, who were the most notorious gang in the West at the time. Looking at the readability, John Boessenecker writes very thoroughly, very meticulously. He is definitely a historian who writes biographies, not a biographer. I consider that to be a difference. A biographer will write just about that character. A historian who writes a biography is someone who will write about the entire era, all the people surrounding that person, all the life, the times, the trials, the customs, the culture, the finances of each of these individuals. He creates this entire web of people, and so that can make for very, very intense reading, a little bit intimidating as you're trying to chew through all this information, and at times it feels like you're drinking from the fire hose. So it can be a little hard to read at times, especially when he's getting into all the minutia of each individual character that was a distant connection to the story directly of Wyatt Earp. The print is a little on the small side. It is jam-packed. You do get some big walls of text at times, so it's a little tricky on the eyes, a little tricky on the mind as well, especially if you're a simpleton like me. Did I just call myself a simpleton? So as far as the readability, it gets a mediocre score of 6 out of 10. Now let's look at the content. Boessenecker tells the complete story of Wyatt Earp in his life. He is a very controversial figure, known in some camps as this dastardly, notorious scoundrel who was a cattle rustler, who was corrupt, who paid off police, who swindled people in different poker games or faro games. And then on the other hand, he's known as this hero, this almost knight in shining armor who saved the Arizona territory from the notorious grip, the iron grip of these cowboys, this gang of killers and rustlers and thieves. What Boessenecker reveals in this book is that there's actually a little bit of truth in both depictions of Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp's father was a bit of a drifter who was also in and out of trouble. He knew moments of courage, he knew moments of integrity and fighting for the law, but he also had moments where he shied away from the law. Wyatt Earp and his brothers Virgil and Morgan, along with others in his family, drifted in and out of the law, especially in their youth, where Wyatt Earp was a little bit of a scoundrel. He did get caught up on the wrong side of the law multiple times, at one point being jailed, at one point escaping jail, and running from his debts on numerous occasions. Upon settling in Kansas, he became more known as a reputable man of the law, someone who knew what it was like to serve honorably with a badge. Getting restless, he ended up moving to Arizona in the Tombstone area, hoping to make his fortune in the mine. He served briefly as a shotgun messenger for Wells Fargo, which was in charge of delivering packages and money and telegrams in a much safer way than the United States mail at the time. Now, during this time in the preceding decades and all the way leading through the Earp's time in Arizona, there was a gang of people called the Cowboys, or as they were known in their earliest days as just the Boys. It was a constantly shuffling list of men, but their constant crimes usually included rustling cattle in the sense that they would travel south of the border, across the Arizona line into Mexico, steal cattle, cut off or burn off or alter the brands on the cattle and bring them to butchers that they knew, who would turn a blind eye, slaughter the cow, and pay them cheaper wages because they knew that's where they can get cheap meat. They were also known for stopping these Wells Fargo caravans, these Wells Fargo stations that would travel across the country, a lot of them from California, hold them up, steal what they could, and leave. Now, while a lot of their crimes included theft and stealing, they were not adverse to taking human life. They were murderous in their pursuit of money and their pursuit of cattle. They terrorized both sides of the border, causing international incidents, and eventually became the widest criminal enterprise in American history at that time. Due to their constant spending in whatever towns that they went in, they actually earned a lot of respect and a lot of friendships with the townsfolk, and including lawmen, and judges. Where the Cowboys ended up hitting a brick wall is with the Earp family, particularly with Wyatt, with Virgil, and with Morgan. The Earps were a constant burn in the side of the Cowboys, who were constantly having the courage to actually stop them in their crimes, pursue them when they had held up a stage or when they were rustling cattle, to actually form posses and go after them. And the Earp family was the first group of people to actively pursue the Cowboys and be proactive in their law enforcement. Boessenecker gives the ins and outs of the actual confrontation at the OK Corral, this gunfight that happened in which 3 Cowboys lost their lives, in which Morgan Earp and Virgil Earp were injured, in which Doc Halliday and Wyatt Earp walked away without a scratch. The Earp family was constantly threatened before that and after that, and you actually find out that even though the Earp family, particularly Wyatt and Virgil, were not averse to showing flares of temper, they actually showed enormous restraint all the way up to that point at the fight at the OK Corral. In the fallout afterwards, the Cowboys continuously threatened the Earp family, and eventually Morgan was murdered and Virgil was attemptedly assassinated. After the assassination of Morgan Earp, Wyatt Earp became absolutely enraged and pursued the Cowboys on both sides of the law, at one point going after them legally, and then breaking into more vigilante-style justice, in which he brutally murdered 2 members of the Cowboys. This book tells the story of a man who knew what it was like to show courage, to show honor, but also someone who can give in to his rage, could give in to his more base impulses to earn money. So he was a very controversial figure, a very shadow and light figure, as I believe we all are. It is very information dense, so as far as the content goes, it gets a perfect score, 10 out of 10. I found this book at Barnes & Noble in the history section, and for any history buffs out there, or Western history buffs in particular, I think you'll really enjoy it. You'll get a kick out of it, and for people just interested in what law enforcement was like in the Old West, you'll really get a kick out of this. You'll really understand what life was like, the rough and tumble way people went through their days. And I think it's overall just a fantastic book to read. The book is Ride the Devil's Herd by John Boessenecker. Go out and get yourself a copy. Thanks for watching, everybody. And go read something.
Sometimes I feel close to the edge again, like my fire's gone now, no coals burning within.
Hey RBC fans, if you want to support the show in our mission to share great works of writing with the world, scan the barcode to make a generous donation, and if you donate $50 or more and leave a book title in our comments, I'll even feature your book choice on our next episode.